The first time Selene met Elias Vance, she knew he was dangerous. Not the kind of danger that came with violence, but the kind that could pull you in, make you forget yourself, and leave you wanting more. He sat in the dimly lit lounge of a private club, dressed in a sharp black suit. His piercing blue eyes followed her as she walked toward him, his gaze steady, unreadable. He was powerful. He was rich, and he was used to getting what he wanted. Selene had been with many men, powerful politicians, businessmen, celebrities. But something about Elias made her feel different. Maybe it was the way he watched her, like he already owned her. She sat across from him, crossing her legs slowly, letting the silk of her dress slide against her skin. His eyes flickered down for just a second before meeting hers again. "You know who I am," Elias said, his voice deep and smooth. "And you know why you're here." Selene tilted her head, a teasing smile on her lips. "I know you're paying me a ridiculous amount of money to be your pretend lover." He smirked. "Not just pretend, convincing." She leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I'm very good at convincing." His fingers tapped against his glass, watching her like he was testing her, waiting for her to break first. But she didn't. She never did. After a long silence, he slid a folder across the table. "1 month. You stay with me. You come to events as my lover. You follow my lead." Selene picked up the contract, skimming the pages. The money was more than enough. The rules were simple, but it was the last line that made her pause. Her eyes flicked up to him. "Interesting condition?" "I don't like games," he said. "I take what I want, and I don't want to be played." She smiled, closing the folder. "I don't get played either, Mr. Vance." He chuckled, low and dark. "We'll see about that." She thought it would be simple. Walk into a room on his arm, smile for the cameras, play the role of the perfect lover. But she never expected Elias to look at her like that, to touch her in a way that made her heart race, to make her want more than just the money. And Elias? He had planned everything. Everything except falling for the woman who was never supposed to matter. The first public appearance was at an exclusive gala. The moment Elias stepped out of the sleek black car, Selene on his arm, every eye turned toward them. The cameras flashed, the whispers started. "Who is she?" "Elias Vance never brings a date. She must be someone special." Selene knew how to play the role. She leaned into him, her hand resting lightly on his chest. Her lips curled into the perfect mysterious smile. Elias, ever composed, kept his arm around her waist, his grip firm but not possessive. "You're enjoying this," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. Selene tilted her head up to him, her voice a whisper only he could hear. "I enjoy any game I know I can win." His lips twitched, amused. "Be careful, Selene. I don't like to lose." Inside the ballroom, luxury dripped from every corner. Crystal chandeliers, golden accents, expensive champagne. The air smelled of wealth and power. Elias introduced her to business partners, politicians, people who ran the world behind closed doors. She played her part perfectly, charming, confident, untouchable. But the real game was happening in the moments between. The way Elias's fingers traced small, absent circles on her lower back. The way his voice dropped lower when he spoke just to her. The way his eyes lingered on her lips when she wasn't looking. Selene had been with many men, but none of them made her feel like this. And Elias? He was breaking his own rule. Later that night, back in his penthouse, Elias poured himself a drink. Selene stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city lights. "You surprised me tonight," he said. She turned to him, raising an eyebrow. "Did I? You play the role too well." He took a slow sip of whiskey. "Makes me wonder if it's an act at all." She smirked, walking toward him. "Maybe you're the one getting lost in the illusion, Mr. Vance." He set his glass down. In one smooth motion, he closed the distance between them. She could feel the heat of his body, the tension crackling in the air. "You like pushing me," he murmured, his fingers brushing against her wrist. She looked up at him, unafraid. "Maybe I want to see what happens when you break your own rules." A slow, dangerous smile spread across his lips. He lifted his hand, trailing his fingers along her jaw, his touch impossibly light. "Careful, Selene," he whispered, his lips hovering just inches from hers. "You might not like what happens when I do." For the first time, she wasn't sure who was seducing who.